Meganium is the only starter whose claim to fame is the fact that she sucks. I mean, besides him, but besides that, she's the only starter whose claim to fame is that she sucks. Not even my viewers like her. I've done like 3 polls so far on what my future video should be, and Meganium has lost every single one of them. She's kind of disappointing. Meganium is supposed to be a bulky grass type Pokemon. The problem is that, honestly, her stat spread isn't amazing, but I believe that she could have been at least more viable if she had a better typing. Because when we look at Pokemon like Quagsire and Clefable, those are 2 Pokemon whose stat spread are not impressive, but their typings help them be a little bit more viable. That's why they have good defensive usage. And there really aren't that many great defensive grass type Pokemon. And when there are, their stats usually speak for themselves, and they're much better than the ones like Meganium has. In its debut generation, Meganium was ranked UUBL, where it mainly had 2 niches as a support mon, where it was the screen setter, or a physically offensive Swords Dance Pokemon. I would normally categorize this Pokemon as a potential sweeper, but honestly, because of Swords Dance, even using Swords Dance didn't make her that menacing. Now, that's not that bad. There's a ton of starters that are considered far better than Meganium. There's a lot of starters that either debuted at UU or lower than Meganium and are still considered better than her, so why is her reputation that bad? All started to go downhill in Generation 4, where it dropped to NU. And that's obviously not very flattering. But at least it was good there. I mean, it has to be its NU. NU is low, where it took a support role. And honestly, after that, it just kept falling lower and lower and lower until it's at where it's at now. Meganium has a good move pool, but its typing and stats are kind of meh. Again, it's not really the base total that's the problem, it's the distribution. A very wise man once said that Meganium isn't flashy, but it's reliable in Gen 4 NU. And honestly, I don't want to make a support Meganium. I want to make a flashy Meganium that can be the star of our own team. Now, first thing, it's typing. We're going to change that monograss typing. A lot of people want to give Meganium the dragon typing, and that makes sense since it looks like a dinosaur, and dinosaurs are dragon's boring cousin. But I have another plan, which is to give her the poison grass typing. Now, I know that there's a ton of people that don't really like the grass poison typing, particularly because there's just a lot of grass poison types. But I have fun things planned for her. And one of the reasons I'm giving her the grass poison typing is that the flower around Meganium looks a lot like the Scolopendra galapaginosus, which is a poisonous flower. So even thematically it makes sense. Now, I'm not saying it's based on it, just that it looks like it. Now, before I explain my changes, I'm basically going to be doing the equivalent as giving her a Mega, since the new Legends game will be coming out soon, and there will be Megas coming back for that. So you can think of this as me giving her a Mega Evolution if you want. All starters who have gotten Megas have gotten a base stat total of 635, like Swampert, and have gotten new abilities. So the ability that I have given her, which is Merciless. Merciless is an ability where if the target is poisoned, the attack of the user becomes critical hits. An awesome ability, unfortunately wasted on Toxapex, a defensive stall Pokemon. The next thing I want to do was boost its stats. Now, I wanted to make it really strong. With a budget of 635, that shouldn't be that difficult. I wanted to make this thing hard to OHKO, but still hit very hard without needing to use Swords Dance or a boosting move. I wanted to be able to make a dent on its opponent and actually be able to outspeed a good majority of Pokemon. And for that, I'm going to be giving her an HP stat of 125, an attack stat of 65, defense of 40, a special attack of 150, special defense of 160, and speed stat of 105. Totaling out to 635 like I said. For moves, I want to give it Malignant Chain, the signature move of Petrant. And before anyone says anything like, oh, that's the signature move of a Pokemon, you can't give it to another one, Pokemon has plenty of times giving other Pokemon the signature move of certain Mons, like Water Spout of Kyogre or Aurora Veil of Alolan Ninetales. Malignant Chain is honestly a pretty overpowered and annoying move stuck on a mid-Pokemon who is mainly defensive. Malignant Chain is a 100 base power move that confuses and poisons the target at the same time. So this obviously pairs very well with Merciless, since once a Pokemon is confused and poisoned and getting critted, there's not much hope for him left, especially based on that 140 base special attack stat. Next is Quiver Dance. Since I'm obviously building a special attacker, I figured it was only fair to give her essentially the best special move in the entire game. Does she need it? No, but I think it would be really cool. And as for a special stab option for a grass typing, she already has access to Leaf Storm. But if that's not really your thing because of the special attack drop, then I think Energy Ball would be a fantastic option. On top of that, Meganium already has access to synthesis for reliable recovery. And I think giving her access to Fire Blast and Ice Beam would be really cool to cover her weaknesses. I know somebody will probably say that her having Fire Blast and Ice Beam doesn't make sense, but in my defense, Wooper literally has Ice Punch, so it's not that big of a deal. It is fictional after all. But anyways, it is weaker to faster Fire-type Pokemon and to Steel types because they resist one of its stab types and is immune to the other. It actually does have some pretty good resistances to common offensive typings, such as Water Fighting and Electric. I've talked a lot of smack about the Grass typing in the past, and I don't take any of it back, but overall, it synergizes very well with the Poison typing. And overall, the fact that Meganium would take neutral damage from U-Turn and be resistant to Volt Switch, two very increasingly common and important moves, is great. And since my version of Meganium isn't frail at all, it works out very well for her. I think a Pokemon it's fairly similar to comparison-wise would be Quiver Dance Volcarona, Calm Mind Flutter Mane, and Calm Mind Tapu Lele, in the sense that it is a bulky, specially offensive potential sweeper, which my version of Meganium, or Mega Meganium, pretty much fixes a bunch of flaws that Meganium has, like the fact that it was neither particularly great defensively or offensively, and when it tried to fill in both of those roles, other Pokemon would always outdo it. I think that it would be paired very well with Rillaboom because it has Grassy Surge, and it would be particularly menacing on a bulky offense or hyper offense. And honestly, I say this full knowing that I have terrible sense of what Pokemon and teams structures would be viable, but I could potentially see this thing getting banned from OU if I'm being honest. Predictions are not my strong suit, but I think that it would be a very cool Pokemon to have since its presence is very much overwhelming at the very least. And that's it for now. I've always really liked Meganium because I had a soft spot for her in the anime, and it makes me really sad to see that compared to her other two gen mates, she's really mid. Feraligatr had Sheer Force combined with Life Orb, he had a really cool thing going on, and Spec/Scarf Eruption Typhlosion was a really fun Pokemon, even if it is rather gimmicky. I don't know if I would say that it's favoritism on the part of Game Freak, but Meganium could really never take advantage of both of her abilities in Overgrow and Leaf Guard, which led her to be ranked ZU in the current generation. I really hope that she is buffed next gen, because as of now, I've never seen a starter be that disliked. Even Emboar, who has a terrible design, at least has a cool stab typing, while Meganium still is left with the boring mono grass type and mid stats that don't really do anything for it.